Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Tuesday edition of the Morning Commute. I'm Adam Owen, and I'm joined today by our new presenter, Tom Parkinson. Good morning, Tom. How are you?
Good morning. Not too bad. Thank you very much. All the best for the sun shining. How are you?
Very good. Yeah, long bank holiday weekend. And what have you been doing over that bank holiday, Tom?
Attending lots of quizzes, one of which that obviously you were also part of, which was rather disappointing, somewhat, because obviously we sadly lost to you, which is a little bit frustrating.
I didn't think you were going to mention that, Tom, if I'm really honest.
Did you not?
I thought they'd keep that quiet, although there was quite a dodgy question in the picture round, which was some sort of leisure centre somewhere around the corner from your house, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, there had to be a free mark for us somewhere, so I could have done with a few more of those, I think, to close the gap to you.
I think that's it. So today we've got a whole heap of things on, actually. We've got an interview with Tommy Bell and Tony Bates, looking at all things that are going on from a personnel and career perspective during lockdown. And Catherine Morgan's focus, which is our coaching focus today. So, Tom, what's up next?
Next up, we have the news from New Model Advisor, and today it's brought to us by Jack Gilbert.
Thanks, Tom. So this morning, it's actually a fairly quiet news day this morning so far, touch wood, not a huge amount going on. Quickly, briefly on the markets, when I prepared for this a few minutes ago, the markets were up slightly, but in the time that I prepared it and we started speaking, they've actually gone down, so they're actually in the red slightly. They're just basically flat this morning, not really much happening there. And then other news-wise, first up, we got a little story about Prudential warning advisors that there are scammers out there pretending to be from Prudential, emailing and asking for payment details from advisors. Obviously, it's quite worrying, concerning. Hopefully, no advisors have responded to these emails or anything. I'm sure they haven't, but I guess it does indicate that there's been an increased scam in light of coronavirus, and I guess there's a lot of vulnerable people out there, and people become more vulnerable financially because of coronavirus. So it's worrying in terms of it showing that has been a rise of scammers in the last few weeks, and I guess the importance there of IFAs and consumers being vigilant from emails and from anyone contacting them. And then next, finally, a small story that HMRC is spending investigations into taxpayers and businesses for tax avoidance and compliance failures. I guess it's not really surprising given all the other work HMRC is doing with furloughing of self-employed schemes and the rest of it. So yeah, that's the news. I'll keep it short and sweet.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jack. Is there anything else that we need to be aware of for today at all? Anything else that you're going to
not a huge amount. I don't think it's a little bit of a slow news day. I'd look out for my colleague Ollie Smith. He's done a lot of great work on mental health for the last year or so. And I think he did a roundtable at the end of the last week with Paul Feeney and a few others, which talked about mental well-being and mental health during coronavirus. So I'd definitely watch out for that roundtable when it comes out.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Jack. That was excellent. Moving the show on, next we have the Financial Wellbeing Thought for the Day, brought to us by Chris Budd of the, I always get this word wrong, I'm really sorry, it's Initiative of Financial Wellbeing. Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Yeah, you're teasing me there, aren't you? Because I cocked up. That's why you keep going to say institute, because your first press release actually said institute. And then I phoned a solicitor and said, could you set up an institute? And he said, no, you're not allowed to. Did you know that to be an institute, you have to have permission from the Secretary of State?
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, nor did I. So we called it the initiative so we could still have IFW, which I thought was quite quick thinking at the time. Anyway, so the thought for the day, about buying stuff. Now, I'm going to allow myself an extra minute maybe because Jack was kindly so quick. When we're in lockdown, right, and so you think we're not buying much stuff. Well, I am. I'm buying quite a lot at the minute because you kind of sit and look at Amazon and think, oh God, I really need that Cheap Trick album that I didn't buy when it first came out, you know. So I've been buying quite a bit of stuff at the minute, and we run a wellbeing workshop for groups of employees. And one of the questions we ask them, and maybe you could all do this yourselves right now. So have a think. about the last time you bought something over £200, right? Have a think of an item that you bought, not a holiday, an item, not an experience, an item. So something that you bought that cost you over £200. Now, if you've got that in your head, ask yourself this question: are you still getting well-being from that item? And by the way, we started doing this way before Marie Kondo did. So are you still getting any well-being from that item? And if you are, fantastic. If you aren't, then clearly there's a question to be asked about, do you still need it? Why did you buy it in the first place? Now, when you guys are doing your cash flow forecast with clients, maybe this is a question you can ask them. If you've got someone who's got a cash flow that shows that they can't actually get the thing that get the dream that they want, whatever it is, that the objective that you're planning towards, or if they want to be able to get it a bit quicker, then maybe there's a chance for you to help them review their spending and just challenge a few things about their spending patterns. Are they spending money on stuff that really adds to their well-being? Is there stuff they could cut out? And then that stuff can be used to help bring that future closer, bring that future that you plan for, the cash flow forecast, a bit closer. So that's it. That's it. Have a little think about spending patterns.
Thank you, Chris. And what have you got on this week? Anything interesting?
Yeah, lots of stuff actually. Because it's been a bit quiet on my main succession planning business, a bit quiet, i.e. who the hell business owners think about succession planning at the minute. I'm spending a lot of time with the IFW stuff actually. So if anybody's interested in it, give us a shout, because most of my week this week is meetings and chatting with people about IFW and financial well-being. It's really, really taking off crazy.
Excellent. And where can people reach you for that?
Chris@ifw.org.uk. Chris@ifw.org.uk.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So it's that time of the morning now where we move on to our guest interviews for the day. And today we've got a couple of guests, and we're going to talk about a number of things relating to career transitions, and particularly thinking about how that's all playing out during lockdown. So I'm delighted to be joined by Tommy Bell and Tony Bates. Hi, chaps.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. So I'd like to start with Tommy, if I can, Tommy. So let's first of all hear you're actually thinking or working towards transitioning from your current career into financial planning, and your current career is that of a professional rugby player. Tell us a little bit about your journey so far.
Yeah, so I went professional back when I was 18 with Sale Sharks. Then I moved down to London Wasps. Then from there I moved to Leicester Tigers. Then I moved to London Irish, and then I'm currently at Ealing Trailfinders. So been at a few clubs, so this has been my 10th professional season full time.
So you're now looking to consider the career move into financial planning. What first got you thinking about that?
Yeah, I think I've always had a keen interest in business and finance, and for me it was trying to find something I could study and train while I'm playing full time. So if I can be qualified when I come out rugby, it's a smoother transition rather than sort of coming out in my early 30s potentially, then having to start as a trainee. For me, it was to try and get a jump start on that career transition.
And are you finding that there are any of your colleagues looking to do the same? Is it a popular pathway?
There's a couple previous retired players that I know who have made the transition already, and I think there's currently 5 people in my team doing the same. But other teams, I don't think there's many, to be honest.
Okay, so you're currently furloughed in the championship. I think, have they postponed or closed the championship for the time being? What's happening there?
Yeah, it's been finished. So they've called the end of the season this year. So yeah, we've been furloughed until the end of May, and then on to next season.
So tell us how that works in terms of the championship then this year.
So I think what they've done, they've used a point system to calculate the final standing. So Newcastle Falcons, they were 15 points clear, so they've been promoted into the Premiership. Who's been relegated? Leeds Carnegie. Yorkshire, they're now named. They've been relegated. So they've sort of had to come up with a way of trying to do the promotion relegation, and then everything's set in stone now. So that's the final league positions, and that's it really. I think there was 9 games to go, so it's a bit of a strange situation, but obviously no one's been in this situation before.
Of course, so everything's been cut very short. So how are you coping with the furloughing? What are you doing to keep busy or to keep focused?
I think for me it's quite easy at the minute because I'm studying my RO5 and then I'm trying to do my RO2 at the same time. So obviously that's taken up a lot of my time. A load of jobs around the house, getting all them little jobs that I've been meaning to do. And then just training really. I think the biggest thing with sport and rugby especially is just trying to keep our bodies conditioned. So we're used to playing and training full time every day, and then now we're in a position where we've been furloughed. We're not allowed to be in at the club. We've sort of got given and got told sort of get a bit of this home exercise equipment, but obviously it's a bit different working out in your front room or in your backyard to being in a professional environment with professional coaches around you every day. So for me, it's sort of trying to keep my level of ability and my physical state up as high as I can. So when we do get back into training, we sort of haven't made a lot of losses.
Of course, yeah. And noticed a comment in the chat, actually. Roger Kennedy says that it's interesting how rugby have dealt with this, as the National Hockey Association, Hockey Ireland, have actually declared their season null and void. So I think there's all sorts of different ways that people are dealing with it. Tell me, how are you keeping in touch with the kids that you're coaching at the moment? Are they staying focused on the things that they can do in the back garden?
Yeah, definitely. I stay in contact with obviously a lot of their parents. So a lot of the time their dads will send me videos of them. So I do a lot of specialist kicking coaching. So they'll send me a lot of videos of them down the park practicing or at the rugby club. And it's so easy now on WhatsApp just to send a slow-mo and I can sort of text back with some comments and maybe use pictures or videos from the past to sort of say, right, this is what we need to be doing. So obviously with technology these days, it's pretty easy, and Twitter and Instagram, obviously a big way of engaging with fans and people that I coach.
Good stuff. Thank you. If I can turn to Tony now. Tony, you actually run a recruitment organisation. Tell us a little bit about how you think that recruiters are needing to adapt at this time, but also how people in furlough should be looking at adapting as well.
Adam, first of all, thanks for letting me follow a professional rugby player. It's not quite as cool saying I work in recruitment as professional rugby. So, but yeah, I think which part of the question? I guess the first one in terms of what recruiters should be doing at the moment. I think obviously we've lost about 80% of our workload, as you'd expect. So we've got two types of clients, I guess: companies that wanted to recruit from a growth perspective, and companies that needed to recruit. We've still got the ones that needed to recruit that are still doing that. But I guess what we need to be doing at the moment is we need to be empathetic of people's situation, first of all. I've heard of a lot of stories of recruiters just sending lots of CVs out and all that sort of stuff and banging on the door. And, we've got a terrible reputation. I get that. But one of the things I'm pushing for from a recruitment perspective, we should be advice-led in the same way that you guys are. We shouldn't be, we should be advising clients and advising candidates during this time as to what they can do based on their circumstances. So for clients looking to recruit, what advice can we give them to actually virtually onboard someone? What advice can we give them on video interviewing and how to do that? And from a candidate perspective, there's a lot of people that are furloughed or are redundant, and it's making sure that we're empathetic to their situation, because there are some really sad stories out there of people that we talk to. And it can be, there are some emotional candidates that we talk to because of their circumstances. So I think it's making sure that we're there to listen to them and advise them and give them pointers as and where we can, even if we can't get them a job at that specific time. So it's an emotional time for people that are on the job market at the moment. So there's a number of people that I knew that had been made redundant before this point, who were worried as it was about getting a role. And obviously this happens, and you can imagine the emotional cycle that they're going through. So I think it's making sure that we're there to advise candidates and clients accordingly based on the circumstances.
Of course, yeah. And I've seen a couple of stories on social media over the weekend of people who have left jobs about to start a new position, say this week, but then that position has then been closed, so they're no longer able to start that new job. what should somebody in that situation be looking at doing right now?
Well, I think I wouldn't get involved in any sort of legal advice, I guess, but I'd certainly be looking for some advice from somewhere as to what their stance is. But I think if an employer does that, all I would say, if an employer does actually pull a job role, is it a company that you'd want to join anyway? I've heard some really positive stories of companies, and it is difficult for firms that had people offered and have just virtually onboarded them and trusted them with a laptop at home and to do the work they need to do. For me, if a company pulls a job role, then I'm not sure it's a company that you'd want to work for long term anyway, is it? So there are the odd horror stories, but I've certainly heard more positive stories from companies that are still moving forwards and virtually onboarding people than the negative ones. I think there are the odd negative one, but I think the only thing I'd say is maybe it's a blessing in disguise, because at some point that if a company does that, they might have done that 2 or 3 months down the line if you made one little error of some sort or said the wrong thing on a night out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so you've mentioned virtual onboarding a couple of times. For those who are currently actually starting people in their businesses, what are the top tips for virtually onboarding somebody?
Well, I think showing trust. I heard something the other day about during this time. People won't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. And I think that's a really important thing to remember. So I think if you're virtually onboarding someone, first of all, make them feel like you trust them implicitly and that you back them as a hire. But I think regular Zoom calls and regular content. I think regular contact with your team. So I know that a lot of the ones that I've done are doing morning meetings every day, and then the line manager is having a one-to-one with them every day, literally, guiding them through. So I think regular contact is the first one, and show trust. I know those two things can be contradictory sometimes, because if you're in touch with someone too much, they think that you don't trust them. But I think it's certainly giving them the guiding points and regular contact, and making sure you show them that they're capable of doing the job and that you trust them to work from home.
Excellent. Just having a quick look in the chat here. This is something I didn't know. Rohan has posted a 5-minute YouTube video of you doing stand-up for charity, and apparently it's golden. Tell us a little bit about how you got doing stand-up for charity.
Well, I'd always wanted to do. I guess this is a thing I can bring it into furlough. I guess I always try and do something a little bit extra, because I think just doing your normal day job, you can get a little bit stagnant, can't you? So I went to I raised money for cancer research, basically. So you have an 8-week training course on stand-up comedy, and then you perform at the Glee Club in front of about 350 people and do a 7-minute stand-up session. And I did that, which was the most nervous I've ever been in my life. But it was the most exhilarating feeling I've ever had. And then I posted it on Facebook, and I've had a little bit more work on the back of that as well. So I think I've done about 4 or 5 different stand-up events now on the back of it. But more importantly, we raised about 12 grand for cancer research. But anyone that knows me would know I'm not actually a funny guy. So it was even harder to actually do it, bearing in mind that I'm not naturally funny. But it was one of the best things I've ever done in my life. So yeah, it was brilliant. So you can see that on YouTube. I think it's got about 27 views so far. So if everyone can watch that, then it might double it.
Excellent stuff. Yes, well, Ryan has posted the link.
Thanks, Ryan, by the way. Thank you, mate.
Yeah, posted the link onto YouTube there. So I'm sure there'll be a number of people who have already left the show and have clicked on that right now.
Oh dear.
So we always like to ask the question then, because of course lockdown won't go on forever. We like to ask everybody that comes on as a guest what it is that you're most looking forward to when lockdown is lifted. So let's go back to Tommy. Tommy, from your point of view, what's the thing you're most looking forward to when we can leave our homes?
I think so, just seeing family and friends, to be honest, just going out about and seeing people again.
Excellent stuff. And Tony, what about you?
For me, for me personally, I've started noticing things I never noticed before. I've started doing things I never did before. So I now notice what birds are in the garden, and started Googling what birds are coming to my garden, and noticed that, the old people on my road, and making sure I look after them. And I think it's made me realise how in the rat race I was, and not noticing the little things in life. And I think my appreciation of other people, I guess. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out afterwards when things go back to normal. Will we still be noticing those things? Will we still be looking after the people that need looking after? And will we still be good human beings as we appear to be during these difficult times. I hope we are, and I think there will be a lot of good that comes out of this lockdown. I hope there is. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that all plays out, really, from a corporate perspective, but also an individual perspective as well.
Excellent. Great stuff. I think that's a perfect note to close on. Thank you very much, Tony. So, Tom, what do we have next?
Perfect. Next up, we have Catherine Morgan's coaching focus. Catherine, what do you have for us today?
Morning, guys. Actually, what I'm going to talk about this morning leads beautifully on from what, Tony, you were just saying about kind of people starting to think a little bit differently. And actually what people will remember out of all of this is how you make them feel, not just what you're telling them to do. And so the little exercise I was going to talk about this morning is something that I call looking for the crumbs. And often, clients do feel so many different types of emotions. And right now, obviously, a lot of clients are feeling quite fearful. They may be feeling anxious. They might be feeling quite depressed. And we have to help our clients to move through those emotions. And one of the things that we can do is just to bring some curiosity to their language and listen out to the little crumbs that they're leaving behind. Because actually the words that we often use come from our subconscious belief systems. And actually our subconscious belief systems are our 6-year-old version of ourselves. So you think about how you felt and your atmosphere, your environment, the sorts of things that you heard, the sorts of behaviors that you saw as a 6-year-old, they sit in your subconscious belief systems. And most financial decisions that our clients make are coming from that state. It's fascinating. So actually, if your client sends you an email or they pick up the phone and have a conversation with you, just think about that looking for the crumbs analogy. Look out for the crumbs of language, either in their written communication or in their voice in terms of if they're having a call with you. Just listen out for the words that they're using, because actually behind those crumbs are new possibilities. And if we can help our clients to think about changing the language that they're using, so for example, if they're saying things like, I'm really worried about how this is impacting on my retirement plans, if we start asking some really good, deep, open questions with them about, well, tell me a bit more about that. What is it you're worried about? Then it opens up those crumbs to brand new possibilities, and that's new possibilities for a new sense of well-being. So just something I wanted to share with you. So next time you get an email or one of your clients picks up the phone, just think about that breadcrumb analogy. Listen out to those crumbs and think about what, where that's coming from for that client. What kind of message are they actually trying to tell you underneath all of it?
Perfect. Thank you very much. But on that, can I ask just a quick question? When responding to that, what's the best way to respond to that? Because obviously, if it's coming from a younger perspective, that rationale, are you supposed to respond in an appropriate way to that?
Yeah, it depends on what they say. I think sometimes there's different exercises that you can do for clients around this. And sometimes we have to be a little bit careful with this because it depends on whether the client's ready to explore that. So the first question I'd actually ask them is, would you like to explore a little bit about where this is perhaps coming from? Because it could be that a previous experience has triggered that for them. Maybe they've been through a financial crisis before, and maybe their situation was actually entirely different back in 2008, for example, to what it is now. So I think the first thing to do would be to ask their permission, do you want to explore this together? And it's using open coaching questions to actually understand, well, a great question is just tell me a little bit more about that. But what you'll hear then is that a whole load of other stuff will then come out, which is often the actual real reason why they're fearful in the first place.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Catherine.
I was just going to ask Catherine what else you've got on this week.
Yeah, actually, I've got a really exciting announcement today because I've just opened up a brand new financial coaching training program for financial advisors and financial planners. So for those of you that have followed me for the last 2 years, I've built the Money Panel business based around helping clients to understand the change work, how our emotional relationship with money is formed, and actually how we can use the basis of financial coaching to build, you know, a business for the future. And I've worked with quite a lot of financial advisors over the last 2 years on a one-to-one basis, and have wanted to develop something that I can train and deliver out to the market as a training program. So today I've just announced and will be opening up the first cohorts for anybody who is interested in actually helping their clients to explore the emotional relationship around money. So that's what I'll be busy doing this week.
Excellent stuff. And what's that course called, Catherine?
So it's called the Financial Coaching Training Program. It's on the website now. If you head over to the Money panel, it's going to be an online course for obvious reasons, but it's going to be a 90-day program that's delivered from May until the start of the summer, and it will be fortnightly Zoom sessions like we're doing right now. And there is a special price actually for the first cohort that's going through, and we're also giving a special discount for next gen planners as well. So if anybody's interested, I'll drop a link in the Slack message. If you use the code NextGen100 off in capital letters, that will get you an extra £100 off.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much. Look forward to that. So that's it for the show for today. Thanks to all our guests, and thanks to Tom for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
And tomorrow we've got our regular phone-in style show with Rohan and Adam, and they'll be joined tomorrow by Karen Mallin and Ian Else, and they'll be taking questions on building your advice process. So if you've got any questions relating to building your advice process, then drop them into the Next Gen Planners Slack channel, or ping us an email, admin@nextgenplanners.co.uk, and we'll put those to our panel, or just turn up on the show tomorrow and ask questions through the chat box. Thanks for joining us today, everybody, and have a great day.